They trained me to lie. They trained me to disappear. They never trained me to live. I was a KGB officer sent undercover into the United States at the height of the Cold War. For years, I played a role so well that I forgot where the role ended and where I began. I worked for companies tied to the Pentagon. I passed information to Moscow. I watched Americans smile and learned how to smile back. Until one day, I was ordered to come home. I had 72 hours to disappear, and that's when I made the most dangerous decision of my life. I stayed. This is not a story about politics. It's a story about identity, about fear, about what happens when a spy stops belonging to any side. This is the story of the man who vanished, not to escape death, but to become human. My name was Richard Gray. At least, that was the name printed in the American passport I received in Moscow in 1961. My real name stayed behind, along with my oath, a photograph of my mother, and the smell of wet snow on Red Square. I arrived in the United States as an electrical engineer, a telecommunications specialist. My cover was flawless. Studies in Zurich, a Scottish father, a deceased mother. The best family for a spy is no family at all. America greeted me with sunshine and excessive friendliness. People looked you in the eyes and talked too much. At first, it irritated me. Where I came from, silence meant safety. Here, silence meant suspicion. I worked for a Pentagon subcontractor in Virginia. Glass offices, tasteless coffee, and secretaries who knew more about their co-workers than any intelligence service ever could. They became my first sources without realizing it. Contact with Moscow was scheduled every 2 weeks. A dead drop in Baltimore, a book with a missing page, a cipher based on War and Peace. Classic, reliable, until I noticed the same black Ford parked on the same street, on different days. That's when the real Cold War began. Not the one in newspapers, the quiet one. Footsteps behind me, a phone line clicking before the dial tone, the feeling that someone had been in my apartment even though nothing had moved. Lying wasn't the hardest part. You get used to that quickly. The hardest part was living a normal life. I had friends. I even had a woman. Her name was Sarah. She once asked who I was before America. I answered with a half-truth. And half-truths are the most dangerous things an agent can carry. One evening, she said, "You look like someone who's always ready to run." She was right. Over time, something worse happened. The legend stopped feeling like an act. At first, I played Richard Gray. I memorized his life like a poem. Then I noticed I was thinking his thoughts. When people asked where I was from, the answer came without hesitation and without resistance. My real name began to sound foreign, as if I had stolen it from someone else. I avoided mirrors, not because I feared seeing someone else, but because I saw exactly who the world thought I was. An ordinary American man, tired, lonely, without ideology, without slogans. The center taught us that emotions were weakness. No one warned us that the absence of emotion was also a form of collapse. Inside, there was silence, not peace, a vacuum. Sarah became a problem not because she could expose me, but because around her I forgot to stay alert. I wanted to tell her something real, not facts, but feelings. The fear, the constant readiness to disappear, the exhaustion of living every day as something temporary. Then the message arrived. Prepare for extraction. Window, 72 hours. I read it 3 times. I didn't burn the paper, didn't respond. I put it in a drawer like a letter from someone who no longer existed. For the first time in years, I did nothing. I went to work, drank the same coffee, heard the same conversations. But the fear was gone. In its place was clarity. If they came for me, so be it. If they didn't, I would no longer be a shadow. That night, I told Sarah the truth. Not all of it. No one ever tells all of it, but enough. I'm not who I say I am, and I might disappear. She was silent for a long time, then said, "You've been disappearing for years. Every time you refuse to be here." Those words weighed more than any order I had ever received. On the day of extraction, I didn't show up. The dead drop stayed empty. The book remained unopened. To Moscow, I became either a traitor or a ghost. Both were convenient. I changed my name again, this time without instructions. I started teaching. I spoke more slowly. I stopped checking every sound behind me, though my body still remembered how. At night, I dreamed in Russian. No flags, no anthems, only windowless corridors and a voice calling a name that no longer belonged to me. I knew they could find me if they wanted to. But years passed, the world changed, and for the first time, I lived without orders. I didn't become American. I didn't remain a Soviet officer. I became a man with a past that couldn't be justified, only endured. And that was the most dangerous freedom of all.